a missionary at, guys, it would be China. It would be China. Okay, so last week I showed you the example of the toxic chlorine, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I showed you how this is my example of how money and power and sex relates to people. Because it's not necessarily that the thing has any harm to it, it's just like vinegar. But then when it's added to us, we're bleach. We just have a way of making things complicated. My proof for that is the fact that you can really be greedy about much, much more than money, can't you? You can be greedy about food, you can be greedy about your stuff. Like, it's not just money. But anyways, so in the book, he gives the example of money being like two opposing streams. That it's kind of like a paradox. The river is flowing in both directions. But that's kind of how money is, and he likens it to the dark side and the light side of money. So flowing in one side is the bad things about money, and then flowing in the other direction is the light things about money, the things that are the more positive things. And so he calls it more of a paradox, but I'll elaborate more on that in a minute. So the first thing about money is that anytime you talk about money, it's going to cause a divide. And the reason for that is because money has a death hold on our lives. You know what I mean? Like, regardless of how you personally view money is a guiding force to pretty much everything that happens in the world. If you have money, once again, power and sex are pretty much yours. You know what I mean? It's something that kind of has situated itself as our modern day God. And I was talking to Pastor earlier about this today. This is actually why I don't really necessarily teach the whole giving 10% of our money, like the whole tithe thing. I don't really teach that. I more teach the whole, every penny you have is God's, and you need to be surrendered to God. And if He wants you to give 100%, you give 100%. You know what I mean? Because sometimes people have this mentality when they do the tithe. I'm going to give my 10%, and then the rest is mine to spend however I want, and I'm just going to be whoever I want with that money. And I paid my tithes, so that means God's going to bless me, and I can just live my life. So I mean, and it kind of has this idea where as long as I pay tithes, God's going to bless me, and I'll be exempt from any punishment from God. But with that being said, I do believe that we are supposed to give our 10%, pay our tithes and that kind of stuff. I'm not trying to contradict what Pastor said. I'm just saying that I try to teach people more of it's not your money in the first place.
Right.
So, anyways, but money is going to cause a divide. Like, for instance, last Sunday, Pastor talked about money. So how much you want to bet that eventually, sometime this week, somebody's going to complain about Pastor's sermon?
Yeah.
It's going to happen. Why? Because money causes a divide. People love money. And what's sad is that we actually learn to love money more than people. And what I mean by that is somebody will say something rude to Pastor because he taught on tithes, see what I mean? Because they don't agree with him. And instead of treasuring the person, they'll treasure their point of view on tithes. See what I'm saying? Because in our hearts, money takes supremacy. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Oftentimes, whenever ministers are talking about money in general, not just greed, but money in general, we are tempted to downplay its role in our lives. Oh, it's not that great of a force. It's not that big of a deal. I have control of it. It's just an objective thing. It's not that big of a deal. But the truth is that that's not really how it works. First off, money, whenever you talk about money, there's a fear that comes along with that. We're afraid to lose our money. We're afraid that if we don't have money, what that's going to mean. We're going to lose our house. We're going to lose our car. Everything about money is fear with us. So I mean, it dictates our life in a way that few things can. And so with that being said, it's important that we don't downplay the role of money in our lives. Money is something that, if you are not paying attention, will get its fingers in your life and it will completely take over. And it will be something that your whole life is submitted to without you even noticing. It is... Were you going to say something? Oh. It is something where it's like a god that has very sneaky fingers. You know what I mean? And so that's why he goes to the suggestion, Foster, Richard Foster. Anyways, it's on the next slide. That's why he comes to the conclusion that money is a power. He actually likens it to something that has spiritual, that it is a spiritually demonic thing in and of itself. Once again, I think that's a little bit much for me, because just because something gets a finger in our life doesn't necessarily mean that it is a power in and of itself. But with that being said, I understand where he's coming from. Right. Anyway, because money really does have a way, if it just takes control of us. Even if we're paying attention, it can take control of us. And so that brings us to the dark side of money. And once again, the idea of a dark side of something is that the evil side of it, the thing that goes in the one direction, saying money is evil. Okay, Matthew 6:19 says, "Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal." And then down in in chapter 19, verse 24. So already it's kind of giving the idea of, hey, you don't need to be accumulating wealth here, guys. But then in 1924, Jesus says, in this book, he was actually saying that Jesus talked the most about money more than anything else besides the kingdom of God. I thought that was interesting. So chapter 19, verse 24. Again, I tell you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to enter the kingdom of God. So already we've got some strong things that Jesus is saying about wealth and how wicked it can be, right? So that kind of definitely is leading us towards the direction of maybe money is a bad thing. You know what I mean? If you can't accumulate it, and if you have it, it's hard for you to enter into heaven. I mean, these are some pretty strong things. Luke 6:24. Have any of you guys seen a camel in real life?
Yeah.
They're kind of big, and the eye of a needle is the same size as it is today. It's it didn't change over the centuries. An eye of the needle is still really small. Luke 6:24 says, "But woe to you who are rich, for you have received your consolation." Woe to you who are rich, for you have received your consolation. Once again, really harsh things that Jesus is saying about money. And then down in verse 30, "Give to everyone who begs from you, and from one who takes away your goods, do not demand them back." 12:15. "And he said to them, take care and be on your guard against all covetousness, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions." Again, but that kind of is a little bit more broad than money. And then in verse 33, "Sell your possessions and give to the needy. Provide yourselves with money bags that do not grow old, with a treasure in the heavens that does not fail, where no thief approaches and no moth destroys." And then in 16:13, "No servant can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money." And interesting is that he doesn't call it money at first. He goes on these. He talks about it in like this other way. I think it's the King James version translates it as mammon. Let's see, where is it? Where did they go? And then he talks in like these roundabout ways. In verse 9, for instance, "And I tell you, make friends for yourself by means of unrighteous wealth." So I mean, he starts separating making little distinctions, so that when it fails, they may receive you into the eternal dwellings. "One who is faithful in a very little is also faithful in much." In a very little what? In a very much what? So you know what I mean? He starts talking about and principles here, and it's very interesting how negative Jesus is talking about money. And so from all this we see the one stream, right? The river's flowing this way. Money's bad. Right? It's definitely flowing in the direction that money is just a terrible thing. It's going to own you. It's going to destroy you. It's going to keep you from salvation. It's just a terrible thing. But then we see a paradox. Yet a giving spirit can enhance the life of prayer and devotion. We see a paradox. Suddenly, the river is running in the other direction now. It's a good thing. And now let's look at some verses where it shows that yes, it is a good thing. Because it can kind of seem a little bit confusing. Luke chapter 19, verse 9. And Jesus said to them, "Today salvation has come to this house, since he also is a son of Abraham." What happened, what caused this was a man named Zacchaeus had given up his money. Completely refunded people that he had stolen from. And that's what prompts Jesus to say this. Today salvation has come to his house, once he had given his money. So obviously we see that there's a good side to this issue of money. And then John chapter 12 verses 1 through 8. And there were other verses that we could have looked at, but I wanted to keep it kind of short and concise. 6 days before the Passover, Jesus therefore came to Bethany, where Lazarus was, whom Jesus had raised from the dead. So they gave a dinner for him there. Excuse me. Martha served, and Lazarus was one of those reclining with him at table. I like how Lazarus has just been raised from the dead, and he's all chilling at the table like, what up?
Right.
Mary therefore took a pound of expensive ointment made from pure nard and anointed the feet of Jesus and wiped his feet with her hair. The house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. But Judas Iscariot, one of his disciples, he who was about to betray him, said, Why was this ointment not sold for 300 denarii and given to the poor? He said this not because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief, and having charge of the money bag, he used to help himself to what was put into it. Jesus said, Leave her alone, so that she may keep it for the day of my burial. For the poor you always have with you, but you do not always have me. So once again, we have a completely contradictory view about money. Mm-hmm. If you look at just the first sets of verses, money's just wicked, it's just a terrible thing. Right. Nothing good can come from it. But then you look at the second set, and I just kept it to 2 because there were a lot of other places I could have looked, and we're just looking at the New Testament and the Gospels. We're not looking at anywhere else in the Bible. And now we've got a complete paradox that money is not that bad and it can be used for good things. Right? So then it kind of leaves us with this idea of the two streams. It's a paradoxical stream. Which leads to the idea from many that money must therefore mean that it's God's blessing. I mean, obviously, if it can be used in such great ways, surely it is a sign of God's blessing. But then in Matthew 19:25, says, when the disciples heard this, they were greatly astonished, saying, "Who then can be saved?" Because they heard the thing about the camel going through the eye of the needle. Who then can be saved? This is why, because money is a sign of God's abundant blessing on your life. Surely, if the rich person can't attain salvation, who can? And Jesus answered, Jesus looked at them and said, with man this is impossible, with God all things are possible. You've got to laugh at what Jesus is saying here. Anyways, and so we just see this strong contrast between money is good and money is bad. Right. And before I go any further, these are the 2 resources I was telling you about. This class is based off of this one, Richard J. Foster, The Challenge of the Disciplined Life. Okay. However, this is by one of my favorite authors, Craig Blomberg. He's a professor in, I believe, Denver. And he wrote this book. There's a newer version than this one, I believe. I believe, at least. I think it came out. They released a new edition of it a couple years ago. But it's called Neither Poverty Nor Riches. Let me just kind of spoiler alert here. He talks about poverty isn't the answer to the problem with money. It's more about a balance, not being rich or poor, but being responsible with the things that you have. Kind of like what Chuck's already talked about with Proverbs, where it says that I wouldn't have a lot, or that I would grow prideful, or not have enough that I would steal. He talks about that passage in Proverbs. Right. He's talked about it 2 or 3 times. Yeah. You guys better have listened.
If not, we'll make them listen to the tape at night.
Right.
I'll make it pray over and over again while you sleep. So that takes us to the idea of money then as a power, possibly, like on equal grounds with government officials. Like it's a power, it's a thing, like demonic even. And that takes us to the idea of the fall created a good and bad results, right? Things were corrupted, right? Even things that were good were corrupted. Like, for instance, government, how, there's a good and a bad side to government, how they protect us, but they also squash us. They are appointed by God, but also they abuse their power. See what I mean? There's this constant tug of war between the good and the bad effects of these different things. Money, how once again can be so strongly talked down to about God, but yet at the same time praised about God. I mean, they're just two completely different things going on. And we could go on with other examples, but I think that's good enough of an example. But then that takes us to kind of my point of view. I understand what he's saying about, money is something that was good at one time, and it's just now because of the fall it has a mixed bag. Except that money wasn't created until much afterwards, when the cities started to develop and they needed something as a means of exchange.
Right.
So I'm not quite sure that really falls in line. Just wanted to give you his opinion and my opinion, which is once again why I believe that it's us that makes it wicked. Money itself is part of as an equation, right? But once you add us into it, it changes plus signals to multiplication signals and so on and so forth. We just have a way of throwing a monkey wrench into things.
Right.
But he definitely has the idea that money itself is a rival god, that it is something that vies for your power. And I kind of agree with him to an extent, because anything can really become our god that we have our hearts set on. See what I mean? What is your God? Well, whatever your God is wherever your money goes, wherever your time goes, wherever your affection goes. See what I mean? Family can be God. Money can be God. Video games can be God. Lots of different things can be God. See what I mean? If you hear what Jesus said, he said, if you do not hate your family more than and love me. See what I mean? He drew a contrast between the two, where you pick God before anything, even your family. And remember, this is an honor-shame society, which means to reject your family is literally to do years of bad reputation on yourself. Something that can't just be undone. I mean, it's going to forever go down as the moron who shamed his family publicly. You know what I mean? It's just you lose that on jobs, you lose that on prestige, you lose that on a lot of different things from that. I mean, that's kind of a big factor. And yet he said, if you don't hate those in regards, see what I mean, in regards to him. So, just kind of throwing out ideas there. But if you do take the idea that the money itself is a rival god, then you have to come to the conclusion that spiritual forces are behind the money. The money is literally demonic in origin, and you literally have to overcome the demonic powers of the money in order to be able to have any forward movement. To quote Bonhoeffer, our hearts have room only for one all-embracing devotion, and we can only cleave to one Lord. Which is, once again, I would agree with that too. There are 3 conversions necessary: heart, mind, and the purse. Martin Luther once said that. And, I mean, I think these are true even if you don't believe that money itself is a god. Because what we do is we exalt something, we make something a god.
Right.
For instance, did you know that the idols that they worshipped back in the day, they weren't actual gods? There may have been demonic powers who influenced people to make them, but the god itself, the idol itself, was not actually a god. It was just a hunk of wood. Right, it was just a hunk of wood. There are no other gods except for one God alone, who is our God, the God that we worship. See what I mean? So we know that there aren't actually any other gods.
Right.
There's just satanic influences. So what gave that god its power? Well, 2 things. One was the demonic origin, which is why I personally have a problem with Buddhist idols and stuff, even if Buddhism wasn't a thing. Because it was conceived in the minds of demons who then relate it to people. Right. See what I mean? And so there's that. But then also, it goes a little bit further than that. the wood or the stone, whatever they made the idol out of, became a god in so much as people made it into a god. You know what I mean? If you truly believe something is a god, even if it's not a god, and you give it your devotion, your time, and your money and whatnot, then it actually has become a god for you.
Right.
See what I mean? And so with that being said, money itself can become a god to you. Regardless of whether or not you take his stance that money itself has spiritual or demonic influence to it, or my stance that it's us who have a problem with greed. Whichever side you take, I mean, you arrive at the same conclusion.
Right.
It's exalted to a place of godhood. So these are definitely questions that I'm purposely not answering for you. I want you guys to wrestle with these things yourselves as we talk about greed. Is money a power? See what I mean? So then if money is a god, then let's look at how that then applies. First off, everything in life revolves around the material world. I mean, I don't think that's hidden from us. If you watch TV, what are the commercials all about? Buy this thing that will make you happy.
Buy this, buy that.
Right. It's all about the material world. You walk into a store, they purposely put things around where your eyes are gonna hit things that you want as soon as you walk in the door.
Right.
Walmart will even move things around so you have to look harder to find what you want and get yourself distracted on something that you didn't go there for. See, I mean, they do these things on purpose. It's called marketing.
Yep.
So everything in life revolves around the material world, right? Whoever gets the most toys wins. You got to have the prettiest wife, the smartest kids, the best house. I mean, here's the list of things you got to attain in order to be happy and content. I mean, heck, watch a porno. Don't really watch a porno. But if you watch a porno, what do you see on it? It's always these gorgeous people, right? And they're having the time of their lives. It's just the funnest thing in the world. See what I mean? Because it's all about what you can attain. It's about material things, right? So you see people kind of live by this philosophy when they live to eat rather than eating to live.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely guilty of this. Especially over the past summer, buddies. Woo! That was a rough summer. But the idea that food is no longer something that is just a necessity. It is now something that is a pleasure in and of itself. So, I mean, it has attained a spot in our life where it is causing us to not be healthy. And it's causing us, excuse me, to have an unnatural attention on it. See what I mean? And so then, what about money? Instead of money being, a necessary thing that you have to have money in order to live, it has taken the place of, it's what I strive for every day. And I know it's hard not to get into this mindset when you go into work every single day. It's hard not to get that mindset.
Right.
You're literally there to get paid.
Exactly.
So how do you fight that kind of a mindset? See what I mean? The tallies are already going against you. But then to reaching a place that this money is just for an end, so that I can eat, so that I can provide for my family, so I can provide a car, so I can get around. See what I mean? I'll give you an example. A lot of people have the ambition to get out of debt. A good thing, but getting out of debt in and of itself is kind of pointless. You get out of debt, okay, so then what? See what I mean? Like, what's your purpose there? But then if you get out of debt in order to obey the Lord, now all of a sudden there's a little bit different, isn't it? See what I mean? Like the AG requires their missionaries to pay off their school loans before they go into service. Why? So that way their money can be dedicated to the thing that they're called to, rather than having to raise funds to pay your school bills and your stay in the other country and the ministries that you're going to do in the other country and etc. Can you imagine if Kerry Malden had to raise money to pay off his school loans at the same time he's having people personally support him, at the same time he's raising money to build churches and wells and all these different things? You see what I mean? It would get in the way. Yeah. Well, so now we have a purpose to paying off the debt, don't we? So that we can do the work of the Lord. So once again, okay. So money definitely fights for our hearts, but everything kind of does too, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Everything in this world is constantly vying for you. So improper use and attention to money. I kind of already talked about that. No, I don't think I want to say anything else about that. But if you look at Matthew 19:21, where we were just at, his answer to this guy, this rich young man comes up to Jesus and he says, what do I have to do to attain life? And he's like, okay, do this. And he's like, well, I've already done that. I've done it perfectly, in fact. I mean, everything is fine there. I know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do there. Okay, give up all your money and give it to the poor and follow me. And he's like, oh, okay, I can't do that. And all of a sudden, he walks away sad, and that's kind of the end of that conversation. Mm-hmm. So then Jesus says in Matthew 19:21, if you would be perfect, go sell what you possess and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven, and come follow me. It had to be completely rejected. He didn't say, give away the majority of your money. He said, give it all away.
Yeah.
Jesus' solution to the problem was to completely eradicate it. Why would that be a thing if money was not a power in and of itself? Thoughts?
It's up to the individual of how much the money has corrupted their hearts.
So you think it's just because he was corrupted?
Yeah.
This rich young ruler?
Yeah.
Okay. Any ideas on that?
Yeah, I agree with Zach, because I think money can be like, cigarettes or alcohol.
Yeah.
If you have a really bad problem with it, and if you don't, say give it up, you're just going to keep going back to where you were.
So you guys are more talking about the thing that Paul says, where he says, I'm not going to let anything master me.
Right.
Okay. Well, if that's true, then that means that when something has a hold on us, that God's solution in this is to completely eradicate it.
Well,
it's a cold turkey. Yeah.
From what I understand, it's just like when he says, if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off. If something causes you to sin or have something above God, get rid of it. It's better to live without it than, struggle through life.
So your point is more that the money is leading to a sin in the heart, not that the money itself is a sin.
Right.
Okay. All right, and then that's pretty much what you're saying too, right?
Yep.
Okay. Are there any contrasting views or any further opinions or anything? Ben? Nicole? Chuck? I want to make sure I don't miss anybody. Okay. That would also be my opinion, but his point, Foster, is that that's one of his proofs that it's a power in and of itself. So I think that is kind of important and worth thinking over. Yeah. When something has a hold on your life, to completely reject it. That's some powerful words right there.
All right.
Powerful thoughts. You can get more nacho cheese, buddy. He's over here licking the bowl out like.
I just saw that thing in there.
I know, buddy, and there's a whole nother bowl there. But then in Luke 14:33, there is no Luke 43. It'd be hard to turn there. Luke 14:33. Look what it says here. Now this, I've never noticed this verse in any time that I've ever read Luke. So therefore, any one of you who does not renounce all that he has cannot be my disciple. Then there are some powerful fighting words.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, wow, I never saw that in there. Turning from idol worship is a prerequisite in and of itself. Yeah. Oftentimes we try to do this when we get people saved. Start them out slow. Work up their faith, right?
Right.
You just get saved, and that wasn't Jesus' method, was it?
No.
He told people from the start, count the cost before you follow me.
Yeah.
Renounce everything you have, even your family, before you follow me. He told them right from the start. See what I mean? Like, that's not the way to get a mega church started, and I think Jesus, I think he's wrong here. That's not how you get a church started, Jesus. See what I mean? But that's what he said. Little bit different than we hear today, huh? Obviously, America is a more progressive, modern money-oriented, materialistic government, you know. But that's definitely... Can you imagine what would happen if a modern-day pastor started that up with his altar call? Does anybody who would like to like a relationship with Jesus Christ and would like to give up everything that they have and surrender their money completely to God and to not love anything more than God, not even their family, come up here. Boy, oh boy.
Yeah.
Them are some fighting words, Jesus. But anyways, so we definitely see that in Jesus' mind, turning from idol worship was a prerequisite to following after him. These are things that I'm not answering for you. I want to say these and have them kind of rattle around in your head. I want you guys to struggle with it. I want you guys to deal with it in your heads. So if you look at money itself, in a lot of ways, it can be likened to a god. In a lot of ways. It gives us security, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Right? If we have money, we feel like we've got things taken care of. If we have money set aside, we know that if there's an emergency, we're going to be okay.
Right.
We like to have that feeling like we're secure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same reason why people are so troubled about who to vote for in November.
Yeah.
They want to feel like their vote's going to do something and make a big change.
For the better. Right.
In fact, I heard some people saying, if you don't vote for Trump, you're voting for Clinton. Which is true in a way. But you have to come to the decision in your own heart and your own mind whether you want to vote with your conscience or whether you want to vote for the long term, what's best for the nation.
Right.
And you can't have both.
No.
If you vote third party or someone else, they're not going to win. You just need to know that. But if you vote for Trump or Clinton, you're going to have to sacrifice some morals. Whichever one you feel led to do. I'm not going to make the decision for you. You can't make that decision for me.
No.
See what I mean? That's how it works. And so it's kind of the exact same thing. We have this idea where we want something that will give us security, right? But at the same time, that's giving it God status, right? Because in the Bible, what does it always say is our source of security? God. In every single situation, in every single book where the issue is brought up, God's supposed to be our source of security. So money is definitely elevated to the state of godhood. Another thing that money does is it gives us a sense of guilt, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I should have given money to that. Maybe I shouldn't have given so much. Maybe all these different second-guessing things about what we did with our money and what we didn't do with our money. And
people that buy stuff
and then
feel happy and then feel guilty after they buy it.
Yes, exactly.
Uh-huh.
Once again, something that the Holy Spirit should be the only one who has that amount of power on us.
Right.
But yet we've allowed money to have that state of power on us.
Uh-huh.
Why? Because we haven't surrendered our money to God.
No.
We've allowed our money to be our money. We've given God His 10%. That's whatever. And then the rest of the 90%, I'm going to use however I see fit. See what I mean? And we get that mentality in us. Another thing is it gives freedom, doesn't it? If you have money, you're the slave of no man. Anybody who's had a creditor take something back that they have on credit knows how this feels. A car, a chair, a TV. When you buy something on credit and you fail to make your payments and they take it back, you're a slave to that creditor, aren't you? They can come back and take it at any time. So it gives you the sense of freedom, of power, as we can see through people like Hillary Clinton, who lied and did immoral things, and the FBI found out about it, and then they basically said, hey, it's okay.
Yeah.
Nobody else can do this, but she did it, and it's okay.
Uh-huh.
Well, why? Because she's got money.
Okay.
You're going to end up dead if you oppose her in the long run. The only reason why Donald Trump hasn't ended up dead, I'm pretty sure, is because he's so much in the limelight.
Uh-huh.
In other news, the main Republican nominee died. Huh. Anyways. And money definitely does have the idea of omnipresence and omnipotence, right? It's all powerful, right?
Yeah.
It's everywhere. It governs everything.
Can't escape it.
Do what?
Can't escape.
Right, exactly. It's everywhere. And remember, the Catholic solution. Does anybody remember what the Catholic solution was to the problem of money? The vow of simplicity, giving up everything, right?
Yeah.
So then that leads us to the idea that money doesn't give us any satisfaction in the long run, right? We're kind of just always seeking, never finding. always desiring, never attaining.
Right.
I mean, money always works to supremacy in us. In our hearts, it always works to supremacy. It's always fighting to have its will. It's always fighting to have you spend an extra dollar as something that you didn't plan. It's always demanding more from you.
Right.
You know what I mean? And oftentimes, if we look at it, we all have more than what we need. See what I mean? In the book, The Challenge of the Disciplined Life, he actually compared the lower class people in America to people in third world countries where I mean, they don't even make a fraction of that. I mean, they're still alive. You know what I mean?
Right.
And his point was this: we could live off of a lot less than we actually do. Yet, most of us are still complaining that we don't make enough, right? You know what I mean? And if we tally the things that we have, our money, our clothes, our cars, our houses, oftentimes we have more than what we need. You know what I mean? We'll have one car that we like a lot, but then we'll have other cars. See what I mean? And we'll have one house that we like a lot, but then we'll have another house that we rent out because it's our only option in life. That's me. Guys, that's me. We'll have, clothes. These are our favorite clothes that we wear all the time, and then there's these other ones that we don't wear, but we don't actually give to free will. They just or Goodwill. They just sit there in a pile and never get washed, never get worn. They just sit there. Half of them we don't even know if they fit us anymore.
Someday.
We might. What if we run out of our other clothes? So I mean, this idea where a lot of the things that we have plenty. We just want more. You know what I mean?
More.
Exactly. We had a thing of ice cream in the fridge, okay? Or in the freezer. Don't put it in the fridge. That's bad. We had it in the freezer. But we got 2 more things of ice cream. See what I mean? So if we're realistic, we have more than what we need. And I don't remember if I wrote this down or not, but he made the point that if you own a house in America, you are wealthier than 95% of the world.
Yeah.
Jeez. Calm down with that. You know what I mean? Like that's a powerful statement. That was in the 80s, though. I don't know if it's changed nowadays because we had that economic collapse earlier in the 2000s, and a bunch of other things happened. So I don't know if that's still the percentage or not. I don't know. Either way, that's a pretty powerful thing to think about. So, I already mentioned this. We're just barely making ends meet. Well, we're going to feel like this no matter what we are making. It doesn't matter. We're always going to feel like we're just making ends meet. So with that being said, it's our job to lower our budget.
Because have you noticed that when you start making more, you always find new things that's going to go into?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And that's why I come to this. We must lower our budget no matter what we make. We should be lowering our budget. See what I mean? Can you be saving any money on your car insurance? Can you be saving any money on your phones? Like I say, I downgraded to this crappy phone here because I got tired of being scared I was going to break my phone and have to replace it and pay that money. I was like, nah. And I didn't want to pay insurance because I'm way too stingy for that. No, just forget it. Forget about it. You know what I mean? And then there's this thing about always having to have what's better and what's better, right? The iPhone 7's out now.
Yeah.
Goodness sakes, didn't they just come out with the 6S or 6SC or whatever it's called?
Something.
You see what I mean? Like, it's always bigger, better, newer. It's always like that. It's always this constant struggle. So the answer then is to lower our budget, not increase our income. I'm not saying we shouldn't be working. We should be working.
Right.
But we should make sure that we're using that money wisely. Actually, Pastor talked about this. Again, what Pastor talked about last Sunday. It's like he knew what we were going to be talking about. About lowering your budget. Remember that? Oh, man, that's weird. Anyways, and because of the place that money has reached in our society, we have now the place that value is based off of worth. We have that equated, that you're valuable according to money.
Much.
Right. So that homeless man on the side of the street, if he dies, it's okay. It's whatever. Who cares?
Right.
But his value is the same as my value. My value is the same as Nicole's value. So, I mean, people have the same value.
Right.
But because of our society, we get the idea that there's a worth,
Money.
that the people's value is based off their worth.
Yeah.
Remember, if you guys deal with like any kind of business stuff, it's what's their net worth?
Yeah.
What is that businessman's net worth? What is Bill Gates worth? Millions and millions of dollars. and billions of dollars. You remember on Oliver and Company where he's talking about the cat? He's like, probably just sitting there, rolling around with his millions of dollars, just millions and millions of dollars. No? Okay, whatever. And so how much they have is what they are worth, what their value is set at. Remember, if you don't have the perfect wife, perfect job, perfect house, perfect kids, if your kids don't do well enough in school, if your car doesn't sound wonderful, if there's any problems with anything, if you have cheap clothes on, I mean, it goes down the list of things that makes up your worth in this world. See what I mean? And so obviously we definitely need to come to the conclusion that money definitely does have a death grip on our society, and if we do not pay attention, we will drown. Mm-hmm. So if you remember, we were talking about drugs. Remember? Now let's see how that applies to money. Use of the money, or abuse of the money. Dependence on the money, or you're doing it out of necessity. There's a difference between taking medication because you've got a mental disorder, for instance,
right,
because you had surgery and you need help recovering.
Right.
These are all great reasons to use medication. But then we have things like abusing medication, right? That's kind of the same thing I'm kind of hinting towards with money. Are you addicted to money? Are you addicted to greed? See what I mean? Are you addicted? And greed comes in many forms.
Yeah.
I gossip about people because I like to feel good about myself. I'm greedy for that feeling. See what I mean? Complaining has at its heart, gossiping, complaining has at its heart a form of greed. Mm-hmm. See what I mean? But that's not all that comes greed, isn't it? I like to overeat. Greed. I like to have 20 cars. I know some people who literally have 7 or 8 cars and they're paying loans on 4 of them. Mm-hmm. Okay? I'm not talking about where you have multiple cars. There's lots of people I know who have multiple cars. There's nothing wrong with having multiple cars. What I'm saying, though, is when you have car loans on like 3 or 4 cars at the same time, like that's a problem, especially when there's only 1 or 2 people in the house driving a car.
Right.
Like that's a little much. So I mean, it becomes an addiction. Mm-hmm. It's greed. And obviously, there are some people who like, what's his name? Has all those financial classes, buddy. We took it.
Dave Ramsey.
Dave Ramsey, yes. He has the solution of, hey, just get rid of credit. Well, honestly, let me be real with you guys. The way that the world works nowadays, it's impossible to imagine doing life without money. Okay, yeah. I'm not trying to even suggest that. Credit is going to be a thing probably till you die, unless something drastic happens, and we're talking about like a World War III scenario where a lot of world powers fall. Otherwise, credit is still going to be a thing.
Right.
And money is still going to be a thing. So I don't want you to get this unrealistic expectation of, I'm just going to be able to cut out all this stuff and live life without... No, you don't. You're not going to be able to do it. Okay. Even if you decide to give up all your possessions and live on the street, you're still going to need money to have food.
Right.
Okay. There are very few missionaries who are able to do it without getting any funds. Okay. And the reason why they're able to do that is because of just different situations in that culture. It would not actually realistically work for everybody in America. Okay, so we must totally surrender our wealth and possessions. I think I've made this clear. It must be our wealth. We have to see our wealth as not ours. Do you understand what that means? That means we don't have the right to pick and choose what we spend our money on. We don't have the right what to own and what not to own. See what I mean? We don't have that right. We're giving it up. We're surrendering it and saying, God, I'm doing life your way. If you want me to have that, you'll make a way. And if you don't want me to, you'll make a way. See what I mean? It has to be a thing where our all of ourselves is surrendered to God, just like we just read in Luke. Right there. So therefore, any one of you who does not renounce all that he has cannot be my disciple. Renounce it. Cast it aside. See what I mean? There's some strong wording there. So a few things to look at. The first is Paul. When he talked about money, he said that the root that the love of money is a root of all sorts of evil things. But keep in mind that not necessarily money is a bad thing still. And all these things that we've looked at, even the parts where it seemed to put a negative light on money, didn't necessarily say, money is a problem in all in each situation, you shall never use it again. It didn't say that. So, and then Luke 12, 16, something to keep in mind, whatever your stance is on the different things that we've talked about tonight. Starting in verse 16, and he told them a parable, saying, the land of a rich man produced plentifully. And he thought to himself, what shall I do, for I have nowhere to store my crops? And he said, I will do this. I will tear down my barns and build larger ones, and there I will store all my grain and my goods. And I will say to my soul, soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, be merry. But God said to him, fool, this night your soul is required of you, and the things you have prepared, whose will they be? So is the one who lays up treasure for himself and is not rich toward God. Now, in our thinking, this was a prudent thing to do, right? Mm-hmm. Because he was making way for further progress. Right. But Jesus calls it foolish. Now, there's a few things I want to point out. Regardless of whether you see the money as a problem or the person's heart as a problem, I still want to point out a few things. First off, he says in the last verse, this is like those who lay up treasure for themselves rather than riches of God. See what I mean? He doesn't say for those who have money, but who are storing up for themselves, literally accumulating things in the world for themselves. Yeah. Okay? So once again, it seems to be pointing towards the person, not the money. Right. Okay? But then there's also a few other things. Look at the attitude that he has. I will do this. I will tear down my barns and build larger ones, and there I will store all my grain and my goods. Okay? He's not talking about using it, and he's not talking about helping other people. He's not talking about anything. He's talking about simply for the purpose of storing it or hiding it away. Okay? So then in verse 19 it says, and I will say to my soul, soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, be merry. It's okay. Take it easy. See what I mean? And that kind of a mindset is kind of looked down on throughout Scripture. Where it says, awake, O sleeper. You know, he's always talking about being mindful, being sober-minded when you're doing things. Mm-hmm. So that kind of a mindset kind of just goes contrary to Jesus. So once again, not necessarily about the money. Mm-hmm. But with that being said, all of us have greed in our hearts. Don't fool yourself. Don't make yourself believe, oh, I'm above this. We all do. Somewhere in us, in each one of us, there's a desire for something. There's a desire for something. It doesn't have to necessarily be money. Nope. But there's that greed. You want the prestige of someone else. You want the clothes of someone else. You want the life of someone else. You want see what I mean? That greed. So just some things on conquering money that we're not going to spend too long on. First off, don't see it as objective. What we do is, hey, you know what? It's not that big of a deal. Okay? I know somebody who did this. I'm going to sell goods to the church. It's not that big of a deal because it's an objective thing. I'm a Christian. The church is godly. There's not going to be a problem. Right. Except what always happens with people. Remember that equation that I said? Mm-hmm. It changes the equation. Mm-hmm. Eventually, that person started raising their prices to where they're making a profit off of it. Mm-hmm. And they were actually selling it to them as though the church was a vendor. Yeah. No. See what I mean? Where all of a sudden, it's not as objective as we thought. I'll give you another example. There was a pastor who was getting ready to retire, and so he appointed his associate pastor as the co-pastor. He was going to spend a year as the main guy, while the other guy acclimated, and then he was going to spend the next year as the other guy as the head guy, and he was going to be below him. See what I mean? And that way they could just transfer the leadership and everything would be fine, right? Mm-hmm. Except no. What happened? The new guy started wanting to change things because he wasn't the old pastor. He was a new pastor, right? Our current pastor, he's not Doug, he's not Jerry, he's not my great-grandpa, right? He's a different pastor. And the guy that's going to come after him is not going to do the way things the way he does. Mm-hmm. See what I mean? Pastor's hardly ever in his office. For all you know, the next guy might only be in his office. Right. See what I mean? Like, what a big change that would be. Mm-hmm. See what I mean? Like, that you don't know what's going to happen. And what's my point on that? Because that pastor neglected to realize the human factor. Right. The fact that he would become possessive of the church and get greedy for the church and need to take control of it over again. It ended up where the new pastor was actually run off, and the old pastor took back up his place in the church. Wow. And it caused a church split. Because greediness, it's in us, guys. It's
Right.
in us. Okay? Don't see it as objective. There's no such thing as objectivity. As soon as people are entered into the equation, it changes. See what I mean? As soon as people. So even if your motives are pure, well, I'm going to do this thing. This is a good thing on paper. But then ask yourself, what happens when I enter into that equation? Will I be in it all of a sudden for fame? Will I be in it for profit?
Right. Or.
See what I mean? Zach, hey Zach, you can use my car. That sounds like a good idea. Hey, let's say Zach's car breaks down and you can use my car. This sounds like a good idea, right? But what happens when Zach doesn't drive it the way I want it to be driven? What happens when he uses it for longer than I want it to be used? What happens when he wants me to pay for the gas? See what I mean? All of a sudden, I didn't think this thing through, did I? Because I didn't take into account the human factor, did I? And I'm not saying don't be charitable. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying don't see things as objective, because as soon as people are entered into the equation, they will no longer be objective. They will be biased. Okay?
Right.
Discover your feelings of money. Nobody can ever conquer money if they do not know what they believe about their money. And so what most people do, especially Christians, is they have this fear of money where they just neglect it. If I don't pay attention to it, it won't have a hold on me, and I won't have to give it all up. Because that's what American Christians are scared to death of. That God's going to call them to give up all their money. Oh, God, wouldn't that be terrible? Have to live somewhere poor like Ethiopia. So, what I mean? It's in the back of all of our minds, and we don't want to admit that we have these fears. We don't want to admit that we're always, checking our bank account to make sure that the bank didn't short us. We don't want to admit that we have this fear that we're not going to be able to make next month's rent. So, I mean, we don't want to admit these things. We want to keep it locked away back there. But the truth is, until you explore those feelings that you're feeling, you're not going to be able to conquer them. See what I mean? So, discover your feelings of money. Do you have a fear of the opinions of others? Oh, I'm afraid that people will think that I'm too rich. You can't make financial decisions based off of other people's opinions. You have to do it off of your convictions, off of what you feel is godly. Fear of what life might be like. I already mentioned this. And he actually gave a very interesting story. He gave the story that when he was a kid, he used to play marbles with other kids in school, and he was very good at it. He was oftentimes would accumulate large bags of other kids' marbles, and they was for keeps. And he said that one time that he won an entire kid's marble sack, completely cleared them out, and he took them and just threw them into the mud and watched the other kids scurry to get them. And what was his point? What was his point?
He's a bully.
No, that wasn't his point at all. His point was this: greed eventually leads over and gets into how we handle our wealth, and eventually it leads us to manipulate with our wealth, where suddenly we have power over someone else, and we like it, and we don't want to give it up.
Right.
So we use our money in terms of controlling others. Oh, the pastor didn't do something that I like, so I'm going to remove my financial blessing to the church. See what I mean? Because the money isn't God's, it's yours. And you get to decide where that money goes. Except, no, you don't. Not only that, by withholding that money from the pastor, you're actually spiting God.
Right.
Which means you're not picking a fight with a person anymore.
No,
You're picking a fight with God. Be thankful that he's merciful, because that's about one of the stupidest things you can do. I mean, honestly, you're not going to win because, he's not a person. It's not like you can actually hurt God. What does God say to, I think it was David, if I had need of something, I wouldn't ask you. I own a cattle on 1,000 hilltops, okay? Like, I wouldn't ask you for help. I got it covered. See what I mean?
Right.
God doesn't need money. He wants us to not be dominated by something, and so therefore he wants us to surrender it. So anyways, so stop denying your wealth. If you own a home, you are more wealthy than 95% of the planet. You don't need to be guilty about that. You need to be realistic about that. So I mean, oftentimes we compare ourselves by ourselves. Oh, well, I'm going to compare myself with Ben. I'm barely making enough money to get by. Okay, now be realistic about your wealth. You own a house. You own a car. You have food for the day. Be realistic with your wealth. See what I mean? I'm not saying guilt trip yourself. Once again, do not guilt trip yourself. That's profitless. But be realistic with your wealth. Okay? You must acknowledge something in order to conquer it. You cannot conquer something if you're not acknowledging it. It's like the alcoholic who doesn't think he has a problem with alcohol.
Huh.
Well, you're not going to start taking steps to overcome it if you don't think you have a problem. So, first off, and next on the list, I think this is like 4th or 5th, create an atmosphere of confession. And what I mean is this. It's okay to tell somebody that that you lied, right? And that you cheated, right? It's confessing a weakness and it's whatever. But why don't we have that same attitude with money? I'm sorry, I allowed my money to dictate my decisions again. See what I mean? But for some reason, that's taboo in our in nowadays. You know what I mean? It's something that you can't confess, you can't admit to people. That's weakness. See what I mean? Whereas the truth is, we need to specifically, intentionally create an atmosphere where it's okay to admit that money is having a problem with. You are having a problem with money. You know what I mean? We need to be accepting of people. We need to help them through these problems. The same as you would confess, I lusted. Right? And we're supposed to accept people there and help them to move on and to get past it, right? Same should be true of greed. He called it a maze partner. I called it accountability partner. Why he called it a maze partner was to go through the maze of financial things. So anyways, but find someone who you can get alongside with. If you have a spouse, it should be the spouse. If you have a live-in partner, it should be the live-in partner. For instance, Ben and Chuck, I would highly encourage you to. See what I mean? Me and Gracie, I would highly encourage us. You see what I'm saying? It should be someone who you're close to and that can be real with you and you can be real with them. Okay? But ultimately, you're just going to have to find someone who you are comfortable with about this. I would highly discourage you if you are married. This probably doesn't apply to anybody here, but I'm just going to say just for the recording's sake. If you are married and living together, I would highly discourage you having someone else as your partner because that's going to put a wall between you and your spouse. That's going to be different if you're not living with your spouse, or if you're separated or divorced and that kind of stuff. I'm not really even talking about that. I'm specifically talking about people who are married and living together. So anyways, okay. So then in 2 Corinthians 6:10, I thought, some things, once again, you don't notice them until you're doing a specific study on it. 2 Corinthians, come on, it's on here somewhere. Chapter 6, verse 10. The end of the verse there. As having nothing, yet possessing everything. As having nothing, yet possessing everything. Literally, renounce your ownership over something. That God is the owner of your life. God is the owner of everything that you have. God is the owner of it. But another way that this this relates to how our church affairs work with not just manipulation. I talked about that. But here's another way. Ownership in the church. Chuck, Ben, and I have talked a lot about this with Pastor, where it's my seat, right? It's my thing. It's my this, my that. When you switch from pews and somebody feels like they own the pews and they don't want it to go away. When somebody gives an offering and so they feel like they have a stake in the church that they can like
they bought stock in it.
Right, like they bought stock. Like
Right.
I can sell out at any time and get my money back, or if the pastor does something, spends the money in a way that I don't like, that I can do this. See what I mean?
Right.
And once again, I'm not saying that pastors should not be held accountable for things. That's not what I'm saying at all. Pastors are held accountable just like we're held accountable.
Mm-hmm.
If a pastor commits adultery, he should be dealt with. The same as if a person commits adultery, they should be dealt with. See what I mean? I'm not saying special treatment for the pastors. That's not what I'm saying at all. But with that being said, there's sometimes when it's just like nitpicking. And renouncing your ownership goes beyond that. This is not my offering. Do you understand that? When you offer something to God, that means it is no longer yours. There's a transfer of ownership, right? So what does Romans 12:1 say? That your life is a living sacrifice to God, right? And if something is sacrificed, can it be taken back? Let me give you an example. I have a bull. I bring it to the Lord, I slit its throat, the blood goes everywhere. Can I now reclaim that sacrifice that I've sacrificed? No, it's dead. It's gone. That's it. See what I mean? In the same way, how foolish is it to then try and take back ownership of something that's supposed to be the Lord's?
Mm-hmm.
See what I mean? This goes for preferences in a church, be it whether you don't like the music or the seating or the clothes or whatever. If the pastor just says something that doesn't sit well, not that it's immoral, just that you have a problem with the pastor. See what I mean? All these things kind of apply. So renounce your ownership. This is how you're going to conquer money, you guys. If you do not do these things, you are not going to conquer the money. It's going to forever have a hold on you. And here's the next step of that. If you don't conquer your money, that means you cannot use it in a righteous way. Do you understand that? If you do not conquer money, that means it'll have a hold on your life, and you will never be able to move forward and use your money in a righteous way. You will always be in debt. You will always be wanting more. You will always be buying more and seeking more, and you will not be used to your full potential. See what I mean? You have to conquer money so you can use it. You have to conquer your greed in your heart so you can use it. And don't think this is a one and done deal. Conquering greed in your heart is going to be something you're going to have to face every single day. So the first step on this slide that I wanted to talk about, and I think is probably the first step in general of overcoming greed, is something that Gracie brought up: give. This can't be the only step, though, because if you just give, you can give with a grudging heart. You can become bitter from your giving. I gave and nobody's even helping me. I gave and now that I'm in a lurch, the church won't bail me out. See what I mean? You get this kind of mentality of give and take. So giving in and of itself...
Again, it comes back to the ownership.
Right, exactly. Which is why this is the first step, but it cannot be the last and only step. You have to give glad and generously. Eesh. Did you guys hear what I said? Glad, joyfully give, and generously give, without expecting in return, because that makes it a business transaction, right? If you're getting something back, be it goods, money, etc., it's a business transaction. Without expecting recognition, because this is not giving, is it? It's expecting. You are trying to earn acceptance by giving money. This once again makes it a business transaction. I will be accepted if I give my money, so I'm going to do that. I will feel good if I give my money, so I will do that. Well, what about when it doesn't feel so good? What about when you don't have the money to give and you give anyways? See what I mean? Give past that. To give away money is to win a victory over the dark powers that oppress us. Cosby said that, not Bill Cosby. Or is that Crosby? Cosby. I don't know, whatever. Either way, it's not that dude. It's an author. I don't know if you guys even know him. But anyways, I think that definitely does apply to this situation. To give away money is to win a victory. Because what happens is Satan uses any open door that you have. And greed is definitely a door that has been flung wide open in the Christian church. See what I mean? We must face it and conquer it before we can use it. I've said this 100 times. I want you guys to grasp this. We must face money. We must face how we deal with money, how we feel about money, before we can ever conquer it. And if we don't conquer it, we cannot use it. So greed is more than money. I mentioned this 100 times. Anybody have any questions or comments? I said here about how we have to give glad and generously. How can we reach that place? Okay, I want you guys to think about this question throughout the week, because it relates with this larger question that I've been asking. I think this is the third time I've asked this. How do you overcome greed? How do you get to a place in giving where you can give gladly and generously? How do you reach that place? Okay, how do you overcome greed at its root? Keep thinking about this, guys, and I know we looked a lot about the whole dark side of it this week. Next week I'll try to lighten things up a little bit more, and we'll look at different aspects of money more than just the negative things that come alongside of it. So if there's no questions?
We have a question.
Yes.
Going back to the Luke 12:16-21, prudent, and he calls him a fool.
Okay.
I know you said that it's about the heart, not the money, but wouldn't people like saving up for retirement? Would that Is that a bad thing then?
Well, now see, that's kind of a can of worms because there's a few things. First off, in the Christian way, children are supposed to provide for the parents when they no longer can provide for themselves.
Right.
Jesus specifically talked about this. The law itself talked about this. But what's happened is kids have failed that. They've instead said you are your own problem, and now it's the government's problem. But because of that, parents don't necessarily get the care that they need from that. And so they really have to accumulate some type of retirement plan in order to cover their losses. Because the government's just not going to give you enough through Social Security and through other things like that.
Right.
You're just not going to get enough. Especially since a lot of older people are on medications and that kind of different things. It's just not going to be enough. And so ideally, you wouldn't have to do retirement. But here's the thing. If you do have to do retirement, because once again, kids nowadays are not doing what they're supposed to be doing biblically. So with that being said, if you're going to do a retirement, that's well and fine. Just make sure that you're still giving in that. See what I mean? The guy in the parable. Once again, the point of the parable, the whole point of it was not accumulating wealth on the earth, but instead, right? So if you're elderly and you can't afford giving in a financial way, then try and give in other ways. I know some older people who make care baskets to give to people at the hospital. See what I mean? They can't afford much of anything else, but they do what they can.
Yeah.
See what I mean? So I think that really is a can of worms. Because in one way, no, we shouldn't be, but in another way, it is kind of irresponsible not to in our culture. So
yeah,
that's a tough one. You kind of just have to do whatever you decide to do. Make sure that you have resolved it biblically with the Lord.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, it does.
Sorry, I can't give a more concrete answer.
I have another question too.
Also, another thing is they didn't really have retirement funds like we have nowadays.
No.
Kind of a whole different setup. The whole culture worked different. Remember that whole honor shame society?
Yeah.
If you were to leave your parent to die, that would be just a terrible thing. And
well, I know, like jobs, they take out, like retirement for you and stuff like that. And I understand that because it's not like you're going to give me my retirement money, But I'm more thinking of, like, people that once a month they put back $100 so that way when they hit 50, they can do whatever they want. You know what I mean?
Well, that mindset is stupid because you don't know what's going to happen between now and 50.
Right.
So I would condemn that. But saying, okay, like for instance, I don't get any Social Security drawn out for me.
Right.
None at all. Which means that when I'm old, I better have some kind of something figured out because I'm screwed. See what I mean? You other people who work, your employers are gonna take out Social Security. That doesn't happen for me because I have an exemption from the government. All my money goes from ministry to ministry, etc. and so forth, and so I don't pay into Social Security. What was your saying? I was gonna say something else. I just wanted to clarify the whole thing about Social Security.
People that put back so much money.
Oh yeah, but then there's that. Well, okay, so I have $1,000 set aside for my rental. It would be kind of stupid not to. See what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so in a way, there's kind of the thing about be prudent. Be responsible with it. Yeah, be prudent. But at the same part, if your trust is in the money, and if your desire is for the money and to just live your life your own way, there's where the problem arises. Yeah. The only reason why I have that money set aside is because I don't want my child to not have food for that month because my renter decided not to pay me.
Right.
See what I mean? I have to watch out for Mike and my wife. See what I mean? Like that's my responsibility now. I have to make sure that my family's provided for. But my heart isn't set on that money. See what I mean? My faith is not in that money.
Right.
You understand the difference? Does that kind of clarify a little bit? Kind of?
Yeah.
Okay. What was the other question?
The renounce your ownership one. So is it not right for us to claim the money we give to church on our taxes as a write-off?
How do you figure?
Well, you said whenever we give it, it's a gift and it's not ours anymore, and so we should just, kind of...
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, well, first off, that's not exactly what I meant. I meant more in the way of when you purchase something, it's not something where it's just something that you want. It's something that is a wise use of your money. When you do something, you aren't like, let's say, for instance, well, twice a week I go down to the bar and I spend $50 each night on alcohol. So I mean, well, that's. So I mean, that's kind of an immoral use of your money. So I mean, but just because you're giving to a church or a nonprofit organization doesn't mean you shouldn't claim it on your taxes. I mean, that kind of borders on the line of why would you not claim it on your taxes when you can claim it on your taxes? See what I mean? Like, it kind of borders on that whole being wise with your money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because then you're just going to pay unnecessary money more to the government. I mean, the IRS will take as much money as you can give. I mean, in some cases, they'll take more than you can give. You know what I mean? So you give them what's due to them, yes, but I mean, under their law, their own law, that's a write-off.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're trying to break the law.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Did that kind of answer your question?
Yeah.
It kind of is more about a balance thing. You know what I mean? And we'll talk in the future about the difference between ascetic, where you're trying to do things like a monk way, I don't own anything, as compared to the hedonist who tries to indulge in everything. We'll talk more about that in the future.
Okay.
But how that applies, I don't see as that's a problem. You know what I mean? Like, you're following the law. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Or because you're not giving me anything on your face. You're just staring. I don't know if you don't understand.
The way you talked about it earlier, it just seemed like, I don't know.
I was more trying to say about the ownership of the thing.
Right.
That doesn't mean that God hasn't entrusted it to you and you should handle it well, just because it's not yours, right?
Right.
See what I mean? Like, God's placed something in your care, take care of it.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, this dog, right? It's in my care. I should feed it and water it, shouldn't I?
Right.
I should train it, shouldn't I?
But if we give the dog as a gift to God.
Right, but I mean, I see what you're saying, but I don't understand how that applies.
Say the dog is money.
Okay.
And we gave it as an offering in church.
Okay. And then the government asks you, did you give away that dog, or are you still paying for it? You would say, yes, I gave away the dog.
Okay.
Right? So you paid the money towards the church, and then the government asks you, did you keep all that money, or did it go somewhere else? And you're saying, yes, it went somewhere else. This is how much I gave.
Okay.
And I say, okay, well then I guess I'll go ahead and give you this write-off about it.
Okay.
See what I mean? You're following their laws.
Yeah.
Just because you gave something up doesn't mean that you don't claim it and claim that you did it.
I got
Like, take it! Take it! You know what I mean? Like, that's not really what I was talking about.
I got
It's
you.
like, I thought we were friends, man.
Do you kind of understand
Yeah,
the
I
difference
understand
there?
more now, yeah.
Okay, sorry, it's just when you said that the last time, I was like, wow! You blew me away, man! Any other questions? Good questions. But any other questions? There's no bad questions.
Just to comment on that, like I got what Gracie was saying up until the dog part that got me. Randall was saying one time, like, this would apply for like everybody in this room on the amount that they would most likely be giving.
Uh-huh.
That it really doesn't matter if you claim it or not, because the government
That's true.
automatically assumes that you're gonna, and so it's only once you pass
Right.
a certain amount.
And I believe-
so it really doesn't matter.
And I believe in
Yeah.
our
Claim it or
bra-
not.
in our
Right.
bracket,
That's what
it's
I'm
like 5,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you could still claim it, but it might not even
Make a difference.
do anything to your
Yeah,
taxes.
that's true.
So
Yeah.
there's that
We
too.
never give
Yeah.
enough.
I mean, that's actually a good side point. You know.
Yeah.
Any other questions? You got a hair in my mouth. That's gross. Any other questions?
I just need you to move back aside. And then,
One side.
yeah, and then again in a minute. But
Needy.
One of those.
Okay, Zach. No questions? Nicole. Ben. Gracie.